reports that people were worn out to go to work that day. The building was almost completely empty, and it should have been half full at that time of day. So Newsweek and MSNBC tried to go out and disprove that. And the headline is, Trade Center Warning Baffles Police. An urban myth turns out to be true, but what does it mean? Right here. I went to Brooklyn this week in search of an urban myth about the World Trade Center attacks. What I came back with was no longer a myth. It was cold, chilling fact. People have been warned not to go to work again. Here's another one. This is the Times of London, September 27th, Bin Laden's trail. The author Salman Rushdie was warned, and they called the FAA, the Times of London did, was warned the month before and banned from flying commercially for the month of September for his safety, because there's a fatwa, a hit out on him, a contract is out on him publicly from Iran. Times of London, September 27th, Salman Rushdie told not to fly. Times of London. Here's another one. Instant messages to Israel warned of World Trade Center attacks. See, that's not a rumor. The Israeli firm Odago confirmed today that their employees received text messages warning hours before to get out of the buildings that they were going to be destroyed. Young children told police and their teachers a week before, those buildings will be knocked down next week. Again, I was on television saying that bin Laden's a CIA asset, looks like he'll attack New York. Saying, call Washington, tell them to call off the attack.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad that you could join us today for this Wednesday, July 25th, 2001 broadcast. Tyranny is enveloping the globe, and the United States is a shining jewel the globalists want to bring down, and they will use terrorism as the pretext to get it done. So that's coming up in the second half of the show. Very important information. I'm going to put the call out that you call the White House and tell them, look, we've seen the news stories that you've wanted to blow things up, that you have blown things up, and that you're saying that 4 million of us are going to die and we need martial law and the Associated Press, that one of your little drills you had, and that we're aware of who the terrorists are if you pull this. This can stop this Hitlerian Reichstag event. I want to put the toll-free number up for Congress. And I won't want you to believe Alex Jones. I want you to go get these news stories off my website. I want you to call these major newspapers. I want you to find out these statements were true by the White House about preparing for martial law. And I want you to let them know that if there is any terrorism, we know who to blame. The point is, if any terrorism comes, it's from this government. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s, running the Mujahideen war, and whose family builds all the military bases over in Saudi Arabia right now, and sits on the board of Iridium Satellite. He's the boogeyman they need in this Orwellian phony system. I want the White House numbers up there now. A big part of this solution, after you research all the government terrorism and check out what I'm saying is true, call the White House and tell them, we know the government's planning terrorism. We know Oklahoma City and World Trade Center was terrorism. We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners, Baltimore Sun. If you do it, we're going to blame you because we know who's up to it. Or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame. And you could save the planet. I'm calling it Operation Expose the Government Terrorist.
Willie Brown got low-key early warning about air travel. San Francisco Chronicle, September 12th. Low-key says the FAA called him the day before and told him don't fly to New York for your safety. In July, the Attorney General John Ashcroft quit flying commercial and cited terrorist threats. Some got warning, don't go downtown on September 11th. Confirmed. Echelon, you know, that spy system that randomly listens to telephones and emails and the rest of it. Echelon gave authorities warnings of attacks months and weeks and days before. Another one, the Journal News out of New York. Police. Students spoke of attacks before September 11th. Authorities are tracking numerous leads. Some people, including members of the Arab community, heard rumors of a terrorist attack on New York and Washington the days leading up to the hijackings, law enforcement sources said. And it says they gave descriptions. Do you see those two buildings? They won't be standing there next week. I mean, small children in English class told their teachers. Journal News of New York. The Germans warned us. German police confirm Iranian deportee phoned warnings weeks before saying Al-Qaeda was going to attack New York. German police confirm Iranian deportee phoned warnings. Unexplained 911 explosion at WTC complex. What does this report? The government has claimed national security on the dispatch tapes, the recorded tapes of firefighters, senior firefighters with firefighting engineering degrees on the 76th to 79th up into the 84th floor, saying that there were small fires, the fires were contained, the metal was not melting, even in the hottest area of the fires, and that bombs, their last words were that bombs were going off. People said the government couldn't carry out a September 11th attack. It's too big, they'd get caught. They did get caught. They're just counting on you to be dumb and to go along with it. This is the dominant spin. Now let's look at the whitewash. The dominant spin we're hearing in the news is ignorant and inept FBI failed to heed warning of attacks. Why, these poor guys, they just need more funding and more control. Then when lawmakers started seeking a probe of leaked September 11th intercepts, George Bush, Dick Cheney, and others called them up and threatened them and said, we don't want any investigations. If there's any attacks, we will say that you hindered us by these investigations. And I remember them saying it all over the news. I'm sure you've heard them as well, but here's just one of the articles that from Reuters. Again, USA Today. Secure often means secret post 911 government, stingy with information. It talks about local agencies, counties, cities, federal. They're all going secret. It's their perfect excuse to not give you any information on any subject. Government's digging in against the American people, declaring itself the owners of the population. This from USA Today as well. Government going secret, just like in Russia, just like in Nazi Germany. And we saw reports, Graham, 911 study hindered. Yeah, Graham, don't try to be a whistleblower, a shill distracting us. We know you met with the founder and funder of Taliban and Al-Qaeda, the ISI Pakistani general on September 11th, okay? But Graham put out reports like this. Oh, yes, our study's being hindered by the White House, the St. Petersburg Times out of Florida reported. Another one, LA Times. Inquiry of intelligence failures hits obstacles. CIA and Justice Department blocking Congress, even threatening people not to investigate. What do they have to hide? And now in late 2002, things really heated up. 911 inquiry delayed as staff chief is ousted in CIA dispute. The CIA whitewasher, inspector they put over it, was refusing to release anything and threatening people. And who's running this investigation? Again, Porter Goss, one of the intelligence chairmen, Senator Graham from Florida, the two that met with the head of Pakistani intelligence as the aircraft were flying into the buildings, the guy that wired $100,000 to Muhammad Atta. We got Barbara Boxer, the gun-grabbing socialist, and Jay Rockefeller from West Virginia. I mean, what a crowd of whitewashers. Now we have good members of the House and Senate that have leaked the fact that the NSA got warnings, specific warnings, that the White House knew of plans by Al-Qaeda to fly jet airliners in the buildings, that bin Laden was in the U.S. hospital right before the attacks, that Bush was on Cipro, the anthrax-fighting antibiotic, on September 10th with his cabinet, 4 weeks before anthrax popped up in Boca Raton, Florida. All this stuff is getting leaked and getting discussed and getting talked about by staffers and members of the House and Senate. And all this intelligence was sent to them by good FBI agents and good CIA people. I've been told by people very high up in Congress that they've got unbelievable smoking guns that even blow all this away. So now the White House is even threatening arrest, threatening lie detectors on senators and House members and their staffers if they leak anything else about September 11th. And the news frames it like, why, there's traitors in the House and Senate. They're releasing information that could let Al-Qaeda attack us again. Then you read on in the article, It concerns leaks of government prior knowledge and involvement. So the executives coming over to the